So this is the final video in the series on Vijmalia Birch. She's an amazing teacher, founded an organization, Breathworks, over in England that works or uses mindfulness to work with chronic pain and long-term health conditions. And since tinnitus is a long-term health condition and there's a lot of similarities between it and chronic pain, this is right up our alley. So I've been doing some training with her organization, and I'd like to then present this 8-week program that she has, her standard program that's in this book, Mindfulness for Health, a practical guide to relieving pain, reducing stress, and restoring well-being. I'll put a link to that. I've already made a couple of videos on the training we've been doing, and the hope is that I'm going to kind of go over the program, and you can, I think, work with the program on your own with the videos or get the book. And I think it can be nothing but a benefit to at least try this 8-week program out and see where you are at the end of it. So we'll go through the 8 weeks. So the first week, each week there's a main aim and a practice, formal practice, applied practice, and then what she calls a habit releaser. I'll go over each of those for each of the weeks and then talk a little bit about each. Week 1. Our aim this week is to introduce you to the concept and experience of mindfulness. You'll increase your awareness of the breath in the body and begin to understand how this awareness can begin to transform your relationship to pain and suffering. One of the key concepts here, and I have one of the videos is on this, so I'm not going to go over this, is the distinction between primary and secondary suffering. Primary suffering is the condition, the tinnitus or the pain. The secondary suffering is all the thoughts we heap upon that adds unnecessarily to our suffering. And the motto to take away is pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. So looking at that video, the practice for the week is to do the body scan twice each day. And I've put the body scan in the series of videos that I have together as a playlist, so you can use that. The mindfulness and daily living activity is to stop and be still once an hour for a few moments. Take your awareness inside your body to rest on the physical sensations of the breath. If you notice you're holding your breath, then see if you can relax a little. Notice what you experience. And remember, always be gentle and tender towards yourself, no matter what you're experiencing. And the habit releaser is to spend a little time in nature, which is always a good strategy. We actually know that really does reduce stress. There's a research on something called forest bathing that I think I've talked about elsewhere, but so I won't go into it here. But just being in nature is a good stress reducer. So this first week is about getting the body out of the fight or flight that we can't get into with pain or tinnitus. Week 2. This week we'll learn about the doing and being modes, and thoughts not necessarily being facts, and how we can begin to relate to life as fluid. I'm actually going to put the links to a couple short, real nice videos by John Kabat-Zinn on each of these topics, one on doing versus being and one on thoughts are not facts. So I won't go into the details of these concepts, but the mindfulness practice for the week is to do the breath anchor. Practice once each day and continue with the body scan once each day. And again, I have the breath anchor as in that playlist of videos along with the body scan. The mindfulness and daily living activity is to become aware of your movement, your body, at least 3 times a day outside of your guided session. So bring awareness to the body. And this week's habit releaser is to watch the sky for a little while. The goal for week 3 is to begin to bring mindfulness to your experience of your own moving body into your everyday activities. And some of the key concepts are pacing and the baseline and the boom and bust cycles. Now, one of the videos is on this, so I'm not going to review that here. The mindful practice is to begin doing some mindful movement, and I'm not going to demonstrate that here. I will put a link to some mindful movement practices, again, in the notes. The mindfulness for daily living is to practice breathing with the normal activities of daily life, such as when opening doors, driving a car, lifting a kettle, and so on. Of course, you'll notice you're holding your breath against movement again and again. But every time you notice, see if you can drop your awareness deep into your body, softening around the breath. It is amazing if you pay attention how often we stop breathing. I noticed it a lot when I drive because then I started using this breath thing to make me breathe during the practice, and it changes quite a bit, and I'll talk about that maybe in another video. The week's habit releaser is to watch a kettle boil. Sounds like fun, but it's really about paying attention to everyday activities and just noticing what's in front of you rather than having to be distracted. I mean, every time I pull up to a stoplight, I see someone looking at their phone. We can't even stare at a stoplight and be with ourselves. So this is about just learning to pay attention to normal routine activities and focusing on them. So give it a shot. If you don't have a tea kettle, use a pot of water. Week 4, the theme for this week is acceptance and self-compassion. Our aim is for you to understand the importance of moving towards your pain and how to be and work with your pain through the compassionate acceptance practice. And that's a meditation that I've recorded. She also works there with the concepts of blocking and drowning, which again, I have a separate video that's in that series that's in that playlist. Essentially, blocking is when I try to block the pain, block the tinnitus, push it away. And drowning is when I'm overwhelmed. And we tend to do one of those two states. And it's recognizing it and learning to work with those states by turning towards the tinnitus compassionately, or the pain, or whatever is there. This week we introduced the compassion and acceptance practice. That's the meditation for the week, and you have that in the playlist. And the aim of the mindfulness for daily life exercises is to notice resistance that causes secondary suffering. Again, the secondary suffering is our thoughts about the tinnitus or whatever condition you're working with. Learn to breathe into that resistance with a kindly breath, giving your weight to gravity. Especially noticing again when we tighten up as against the tinnitus, because that's essentially putting the body into fight or flight, and that just drives the whole cycle of tinnitus to stress, because when the body's in distress, the mind will follow. So we're starting to practice to open up to it. Pause once an hour to come into your body with kindly curiosity. If you notice resistance causing suffering, then breathe into this resistance with a kindly breath, giving your weight up to gravity. And this is the habit releaser, is to make peace with gravity. If you got difficulties in your life that cause discomfort in your body, you probably got very deep habits of resistance, feeding them, subtly pulling away from the body, and in doing so, fighting the invisible force of gravity with the body. When you do this, you unconsciously create more tension, suffering, and exhaustion, only making your stress or pain work. So, as the saying goes, what we resist persists. When you're feeling overwhelmed or burdened, the thing is just drop and stop pushing back so hard. Giving your weight to gravity. When you sit, when you lie, don't overdo it. And this is all related to this, going back to the pacing idea, which you can see more about on that video. Week 5, our aim this week is for you to understand the experience and value of seeking out the pleasure in everyday life. And again, I have a video on that, so I'm not going to go into details on week 5, the concept, but the meditation is the treasure of pleasure practice, and that video, it's kind of alongside of the lecture on that concept, so you can listen to that. We also do a body scan practice once each day, and I will put a list of all these up so you can follow them if you want. The mindfulness in daily living, the aim of this practice is to continue setting baselines for daily activities. And this is really about pacing yourself. And if you watch that video, you'll see, to know when you're pushing yourself too far and to set limits before you stress yourself out. Be kind to yourself. Give yourself breaks and respites throughout your day and week and month and year. The habit releaser is to write down 10 pleasant experiences each day. As you'll see, we need to ensure the body is getting a good dose of pleasure to work with. And that, again, in terms of calming the body down, is vital. Week 6, our aim this week is for you to understand and experience the value of cultivating kindness towards yourself and your suffering. Also for you to learn how to relate to the moment-by-moment experience with a broad, non-reactive perspective. So this is about self-compassion, which we all need more of, and the meditation, which I've recorded, will talk about that and help to reinforce that quality. And that's the open heart practice, is the practice. Along with the breathing anchor once each day are the formal practices. The mindfulness in daily living is to continue to work with your pacing. Again, if you see that video, you know what that means. That's about just taking a measured approach to your day and maybe gradually increasing it as it seems appropriate, but starting out, seeing what it's like to lessen your load and if that has a positive impact on your stress or your tinnitus. And the habit releaser is to stop for 5 minutes each day and simply look around. If you want, you can listen to sounds. Probably better to look around and not focus on sounds for us. Week 7, our aim this week is for you to understand and experience the value of cultivating kindness towards others in a series of empathy and common humanity with others. And this is she calls it the connection practice. We know that's a loving kindness practice. And there's been so much research on the benefit of that. There's no reason not to include that as part of your regular practice, and that will be the main practice for the week, is a loving kindness meditation. The aim of this week's mindfulness in daily life is to take 3 short 3-minute mindfulness breaks within daily life. 3-minute breathing sessions, if you will. 3-minute breathing spaces are called, and again, I will put a link to that. To try to do those at least a couple times a day. And the habit releaser it's right out of the guidebook of positive psychology, which I've talked about on here, and that is to commit random acts of kindness. One of the positive psychology practices that's been studied is just doing 5 random acts of kindness in one day. Maybe to the same person or probably to other people. Don't tell anybody, and just see how you feel at the end. Most people feel better. Positive psychology is an important element of our well-being. Finally, week 8, our aim this week is for you to understand and feel inspired to take the tools and practices you learn in the course to move forward in the rest of your life. The practices will return to the basic breathing anchor and the body scan. Those are kind of the 2 fundamental practices, and to start going back with them. Mindfulness and daily life exercise is to review your mindfulness rhythm and pacing in daily life. Again, to see, are you pushing yourself? Can you go more? Do you need to go less? Become aware of your energy level, your stress level throughout your day. And the habit release is to write a letter to yourself about what you love to receive, reminding yourself of all the things you've gained from the course, and maybe mention all of your qualities and ideals. So that's a kind of overview of the 8-week course that is in her book. And again, I'll put a link to that, and you might want to check it out at least.